Welcome to Catch You Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modies. This podcast is about living and playing in the Florida Keys. I cover my favorite sport, fishing, but also all the many things to see and do down here in the islands. Thank you so much for tuning in, and now it's time to kick back and relax with me in the Keys. This week's episode of Catch You Outdoors is number 197. Getting close to the 200 mark. Wow. Catch You Outdoors is brought to you by Spotify. Lots and lots and lots and lots of other streaming podcast sites. Tune in, please. This week's title, Light Winds and More Fishing. Howdy, recording this on Wednesday evening. Things are much quieter here on the island now. The last of the 4th of July visitors exited on Monday afternoon. The traffic was really bad going off the island. The traffic was really bad on the island for 4 days, but it's over. All in all, it was a pretty good holiday. We actually walked down to the end of Beach Road on the 4th and watched long distance fireworks from Hog Heaven Sports Bar, that's about 4 miles up the beach to the north from us. Pretty cool. We could see them, but we couldn't hear them. So I now know that sound is not that important from fireworks at 4 miles up, roughly. The mosquitoes were ever present. Good thing we brought a can of repellent with us because we about used it up sitting out there on the rocks watching the works go up in the air. Speaking of that, the helicopters are in the air here today to knock down the mosquito hatch. Again, this is Wednesday. It was pretty bad since we've had a bunch of rain. The day before that, on Thursday, we dined at the Moose. It was meatloaf and mashed potato night, and it was very good. Glad we finally joined and looking forward to more events. By the way, Janelle makes a killer meatloaf. I'm going to have to bug her to make one sooner than later. Hers is better. I don't want anybody at the Moose to be offended, but my wife makes delicious meatloaf. So that's what got me. Our first date, when she invited me to her house, she made me meatloaf and mashed potatoes. That was it. Well, there was much more than that, but anyway. And Saturday, thanks to the last of the wind and rain, we headed to the pool to work on our tans. Yeah, it was just too iffy to go. The sun came out, the sun went away. The sun came out, the rains. It's better to be at the pool where you can hide under an umbrella and then lay right back out in the sun or get in the pool, which is pretty much what it was. We worked on our tans, read books. We just did the chill thing on Saturday. It was good. The days are hot, so the pool is very nice escape. A very nice escape. Especially since it's got a chiller on this one, which keeps the water around 86 or so. Also, a lot is happening at the marina right now. It's obvious that new work is happening with lights and cleanup of the grounds and upgrades. Very happy to be where it all started for us years ago, when it was nothing more than a gravel lot and a ramp and an office. Man, those were the days. I also remember that they used to have a couple times a year, they had a marine yard sale, which was insane. People from around Islamorada brought every odd piece they had for boats in there. Props, you name it, was in there. It was really cool. Kind of miss those days. Let's see. I'm going to transition here. I'm going to do a thing called movies. That's what I call it. We were on a streaming movie kick for the past couple of weeks, almost 3 weeks, because of all the lousy weather. So I'm going to run through a few that we watched and then send some recommendations to you, see what you think. And you may have seen some of these, but a lot of them just recently appeared. They came off of the theater and then dropped into streaming. Flight Risk with Mark Wahlberg. Have you seen that? Good Lord. Good action movie. Wahlberg can actually play, should I give it away? Yeah, he plays a bad guy. They don't really show that in the videos of the preview. You have no idea what Wahlberg's up to, but lots of twists and turns with this movie, some crazy flying stuff. It's on Stars, which is usually available through other services like Prime and things like that. There's links now. If you buy one, you get them all, or 2 or 3 anyway. But that one's on Stars. Wow, wicked. Crazy ending. For the golfers out there, Stick on Apple TV. Be sure to tune it in. Owen Wilson stars in this series. I really enjoyed it. And you can now watch all the episodes in one sitting if you wish, because they just finished the last one just a couple of weeks ago. Apple is notorious for bringing out really, really good series. I'm not going to kid you. I love Apple series. It's worth paying for to get their series. But they do one a week, just like TV used to do. Every week a new episode, like every Wednesday or something. I don't know. I find that highly annoying. I would rather just watch it. And there's not an advertising, so I don't know why they do it that way, other than just keep you on Apple so you look at something else. But anyway, I think it's 7 episodes, 7 or 8. But anyway, they're all done now, so you can watch it from beginning to end. So if you're a golf fan, Stick. Check it out. Riff Raff, starring Bill Murray and Ed Harris, and lots of other recognizable actors and actresses. Wow, this one was crazy. Violent. No, very violent. Not a little bit violent, with a heck of a surprise ending. Edge of your seat kind of movie, because you start to realize you cannot trust anyone. Death and dismemberment could happen at any time. So I was surprised. Bill Murray, he's so cool. And I'm not going to give it away. Just go see it. Riff Raff. That's what it's called. I think that was on, I think it was Netflix. It might have been Prime. We have both. I'm not sure. And we also watched the original Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. That's the original one from our DVD collection. Man, that movie is just too good and still the best of the series. Our DVD player died, a little baby player, so I bought a new one. Do you know DVD players are now like $69? They're, they used to be $300. I'm dating myself. So we have an enormous collection of DVDs, which I was getting ready to Goodwill a good many of them. I thought, let's watch some of these and see what we want to keep, because we literally have several hundred of these things. Back when it was the in thing to have the movies on Blu-ray. So anyway, Black Pearl was great. And then let's see, what else? We watched we were going to watch this on DVD, but it popped up on the TV. So we watched Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. What a good old golden oldie. I have no idea how many times we've watched this one. Probably about the same as Casablanca. Both excellent, but of course Casablanca is not Hitchcock, but you understand where I'm going with this. But man, it was so good. I mean, we really just loved watching Rear Window. That was edge of your seat type stuff for the time, and really cool. Still cool to this day. And the bad guy is played by, I don't know the actor's name, but Perry Mason. Those of you old enough to watch Perry Mason, yeah, that's who the bad guy is. Time now for weather, moon, and tides. It's just a guess at this point, but still fun to try to figure this stuff out. Thursday should be a bit on the rainy side. Perhaps more like typical summer day here. I was just watching the evening news. What time is it here now? It is roughly 6:30 or so. So I was watching the news, and they're talking about this push of rain from the Atlantic side heading right into the Keys, all the way up the coast through Fort Lauderdale. So I think we're going to get it. So there is a batch of Saharan dust going on, though, coming our way. So it might dry it out a little bit by the end of the weekend. But the hurricane folks say we are mostly free and clear this way for the next 10 days. Never let your guard down. We don't. Rain and thunder chances are at about 50% through Saturday, with the highest being tomorrow. They raised it to 60, so I think we're going to get some. Excuse me. Mr. Moon is full on the 10th. That would be while you're listening to this. With a new moon on the 24th. Tides are high in the late morning and lows in the late afternoon. There's lots of moving water and good depth. Yep, that's thanks to Mr. Moon. Here's a heads up for you. Lobster mini season is fast approaching. This year it happens on July 30th and 31st. Better make arrangements if you're planning on staying in the Keys. You better make them now. Keep in mind that you still need a fishing license and a lobster stamp to take them. There are also bag limits and size limits, so be sure to make yourself familiar with those. A big fine will take the fun out of the event. And most of all, it's pretty crazy on the water those 2 days. Be careful. Watch closely for dive flags. If you're on a boat and you're going to do the lobster thing, make sure you have all your safety gear on board because you will be checked. But more important, just watch out for the dive flags, okay? Somebody gets hurt or injured every single year, and it usually involves a lack of a dive flag. For those of us joining in on the craziness, regular and commercial season, not joining. I made a note, said joining, not joining. If you're not joining in all this nonsense, regular and commercial seasons opens on August the 6th, a week later, and runs through March 31st of 2026. I'll be going out on the 7th and getting some lobster from the local fishery. I don't go out there. You all know that. When I was a guide, I didn't do weekends, and I certainly didn't do holidays. And down here, there's no way in the world you'd get me as a guide to do the lobster mini season. So pretty crazy. They did throw back one thing. Last year, they had a mini season. If you remember, before it started, they let the locals go, which did not work out very well. As a matter of fact, it caused more problems than it was worth because you have to check IDs and all that kind of crap. So they gave up on it. So from what I understand now, it's just 31st. And come on down, enjoy yourselves, and get as many lobsters as you can, up to 6 per person. Let's go fishing. Cruising right along. This may be shorter than I thought it would be. After almost 3 weeks of mostly unpredictable weather, it is going to storm, or is it going to storm? We did not know. Will it blow or not? We did not know. It was horrible. Well, finally, we got back on the water on Sunday the 6th, and Janelle and I had a great time. We tried to do Alligator Reef, but the winds were still a bit high combined with old rollers out there, so made for quite an interesting ride. We looked, then we mutually decided to head back to safer inshore waters. I will say this, that little boat of ours rides pretty well in 3 to 4s. Well, pretty well. As long as you're paying close attention, you don't bury the bow. But it was, I was like, we're not going to sit out here and try to snorkel this nonsense. This is out of control. So we turned around and came back. We decided instead to check a new area, and it turned out to be really, really cool. We went back into backcountry. Not too far in, about 6 or 7 miles. I'm not going to mention names. I've learned not to do that. Dangerous to do that on podcasts and fishing reports. But like most strings of the islands in Florida Bay, they had lots of skinny water all around them. This was a string of islands, basically what it was, with lots of flats. And the flats look very bonefishy. I don't know about this time of year. I would say in the fall might be a better shot for this. Again, depending on water flow and tides. But it sure looked good because it had lots of that sandy patch and marl and stuff that bonefish love to dig and play in. So I'm certainly going to go out there and look in like October. Should probably be pretty good. It also had, all the islands have these deep ditches around them, which is something I really like. You've got like 6, 7, 8 feet of water all the way around the island up against it, like a moat. And one of them that we fished was real productive. It had a lot of nice snapper in there. It also had a lot of big kudas. The kudas were much more interested in getting fed, and that's pretty much what happened while we were locked up next to those islands. We caught a few using soft plastic artificials on jigs. The snapper were small too. Hey, that's a nice one. There was a monster kuda hanging around though. Like the first time he swirled, I thought, wow, it's a tarpon. I mean, nice, big, and girthy, but it wasn't. And he had a few for dinner. It didn't stop him, but at least we got to play a little bit. It was not a major catching day, but still much better than sitting in the house watching TV on Sunday. More fishing in this area will happen. Looked really good for fall, like I said. When the water started to cool off, there was lots and lots of live bait in several of the holes. And that caught my attention. I don't throw a net anymore, but I might try. Get me a smaller, lightweight one that I can toss that doesn't weigh a ton. And again, I'm really sure you'd see bonefish on that flat. That flat just, I've been on many a flat in the Keys. That just looked right to me. So we'll see what happens. The trick is to go into those and not run aground. Bad, very bad. On Monday, I went back out again on my lonesome. Janelle had to do the work thing. The wind had died completely, and it was time to do a long-distance trip. I had decided it was time to put the miles on and check out some old haunts up closer to Flamingo. Put a little over 50 miles on the boat that day, found exactly what I was looking for. This particular grass flat was very good to me years ago, and I'm happy to say it still is. I've noticed and learned something important. The more remote you go now, the better the results. I know that sounds kind of obvious, but here in the Keys, there was a time when you could wet a line on almost any flat and catch fish. It was easy peasy. You just threw something and something ate. If you didn't have a fish by the third, you just moved by the third cast. You just moved a little bit. But 25 years have passed, and there are far more boaters and much better electronics. So the trick now is to go farther than they'll go. Pretty simple. That might be a cost thing too. Maybe gas ain't cheap, and filling a boat is costly, especially if you're making long runs. Hey, check out the charter prices. I mean, just as an example, what's happened over the last 10 years, they've more than doubled. You know, it used to be pretty easy to find a charter 10 years ago to $400, $425, $450, and now they're $850, $900, $1,000, especially if you're going to do six hours. And that's because of the run. I mean, it takes, boats ain't fuel efficient. They've never figured that out. They still only my boat gets 5 miles to the gallon. I'm happy with that. A lot of boats are 2.5. Some are 1 mile to the gallon. So, but that's why the price is up. So anyway, I arrived at my destination and found that little had changed. The water was moving with a tide push. The average depth was about 3 to 4 feet, but you have to account for about 18 inches of grass sticking up off the bottom. So the appearance to your brain is 2 feet deep. That's what it looks like. The reality is it's deeper than that, but you don't want to tear the grass up. So the trolling motor's in the water, and I'm putzing across this flat. Also using the wind just to kind of push me along. And there wasn't much wind. I'll post a picture. You'll see the glassy sea day that I had. It was crazy. But when the breeze did finally come up around 10 in the morning, it was a really light breeze, but it was enough to push me across the flat. So what I was looking for with the drifts, I was looking for just little cuts. You know, this flat's remarkable. It hasn't changed at all. It's mostly grass, like a giant grass bed, but it has all these little tiny cuts in it and holes and places where the grass is missing. You know, you have like a little bucket, and fish were everywhere. I have never seen so many mangrove snapper in one place in my life. It was like looking under a dock. You know, when you're staying at one of the hotels down here, motels, resorts, you look over the dock that they have and you see all these mangrove snapper. It was like that, only worse. Hundreds of them, from little bitty, not even hand size, to 14, 15 inches. And the grass was thick and deep. So anyway, I started some drifts using the wind and also the trolling motor just to kind of keep me guided in a certain direction. And all of a sudden I hit my first cast. I got a really nice sea trout. And then I caught 4 more. There were also a ton of mangrove snapper. Like I said, some small, some big. The big ones were fun. There were also a lot of pinfish and mahara scooting around. So there was a lot of ready bait for these things to eat. I stuck with my usual lead head jig, the Z-Man, 1/4 ounce trout eyes and pearl. Yes, had to try something other than gold. I put pearl on there. I don't know. I've been switching the jigs around to see what will bite. The other day, Janelle put on a chartreuse eyed trout eyes and got good hits on that from the mangrove snapper. So, I mean, I need to switch off. I'm almost running out of gold. I'm low on the gold. Haven't reordered, so it was time to experiment with something else in the box. And of course, the Pink Shine Gulp swimming mullet 4-inch. The only problem I was having with the thick grass, and there was also quite a bit of loose grass, of the things getting hung up in the hook, because when you use the swimming mullet with a jig, you've got an exposed hook. So I was constantly, reeling up, shaking the grass off, and going at it again. And where the bites would come early because no grass is on it, and it's falling toward the bottom. The snapper were vicious. They were great. When I got a nice snapper on, he dove into the grass like a daggone grouper. I would actually let the boat drift up on the fish and then lift him to get him out of the grass. So that shows you how deep. I'd say that grass is probably 18 inches to 2 feet deep. And these fish knew that, and they would dive into it. And I'm using light tackle, so I couldn't horse them. I had to wait till I got on top where I could kind of lift them out. About an hour later, I decided to switch to a weighted owner twist lock offset hook. If you know what those are, the owner hook it's an offset like a worm hook, but it's got a weight on the shank, and you can twist the weight with your fingers and move it up and down the shank to balance it. And then on the end of it, it's got a corkscrew that you screw into the bait. And 16th ounce. I needed something to get down, but I didn't want to go all the way into the grass. I wanted something to get below the surface grass that was floating around. The tide was bringing all these strings of manatee and manatee grass in. So I'm trying to stay below that. I rigged the Z-Man soft. I'm trying to remember in my head here. Z-Man soft plastic. I started with purple. That's called the Diesel Minnow is what they call it. It's a paddle tail. Real popular. And I thought purple would be interesting. Well, guess what? That didn't work. It wasn't cloudy enough. I thought a little bit of clouds had come in. There was not an overcast, but there was a little shade happening. I'll go purple. It didn't work. So I switched out to pearl, and that did the trick. And man, oh man, did the trout like that sucker. So I had found something that got below the grass on the surface. Because it's weedless, you can rig it so that the hook is buried back in the plastic, so it's weedless. And then on the bottom, I could lift it out of the grass without getting snagged up. So that improved the bite quite. I would say, after the change, somewhere between 10 and 15 fish. So it was pretty good. Saw sharks, saw bonnethead, saw bull, saw lemon. Manatee rolled through. That was a big surprise. That proved to me how deep the water was. The manatee could stay out of sight, although it appeared to my brain to look like 2 feet of water. It was obviously 4. And then what else? Oh, dolphin. A couple of dolphin came through. They weren't the least bit interested in me. Most of the times when dolphin come through, they come over to check you out, or at least swim close to the boat. They stayed away. Thank you. Kind of glad to see that. But it was fun seeing that stuff back there. Anyway, by making that switch up, that's what I wanted to talk about. I was able to keep it off the bottom grass and also rigged it weedless so it stayed out of the top grass. You have to see this. This wasn't like sargassum, okay, folks? This is way back in the back. I was 28 miles back, something like that, getting close to Flamingo. And what was happening there was all that wind and all that rain we'd had for days had lifted the grass off the pieces of grass off the bottom. So you had a ton of manatee grass and eel grass, and what else was in there? Just all on the surface. And it was padded. It would bunch up, and then there'd be little breaks, and then there'd be little patches. So what I was trying to do is avoid casting into that, and then keeping the lure between that and the bottom. That was the trick. And once I got the balance out right with the owner hook and the soft plastic, everything was great. So now I know what to do next time. Honestly, I have no idea what the total was. I could just make it up. I'm a fisherman. 30, 40 fish. Hell, I don't know. I don't care. I mean, I really don't. This flat is absolutely huge. I think I fished 1/8 of it where I was located. So I'm going to head back just as soon as possible, and I'm going to find the snook and the reds because I know where they used to be there too. And I did not go and do that. There are some mangrove islands bordering this thing, and I wasn't real sure about how much water I had because the tide's opposite. If you look at the tide down in Alamrada and it says it's going to high, it could be going to low up there, and I really didn't want to spend the night. And so I was overly cautious, but I'll go back up and do some more serious checks. So I can try to get into snook and reds and see what's going on up there. Let's see, reading. I'm still reading Wayne Stinnett Caribbean Series number 16, Rise in Spirit. Not as much pool time this week, so I didn't get to maybe halfway through, but it's a really good story, though. For those of you who haven't read Wayne Stinnett's books, it's Extended Caribbean series. Try them. I mean, really and truly, they're lots of fun. Good books. I like stuff that's written about Florida flats where I've actually boated and gone, hey, that guy really knows what he's talking about. So now it's time for useless information.
And now, from the original book of useless information.
You are a reject! You are useless! You can get a job down here cleaning toilets!
Here's your host, Captain Rob Modies.
Well, he swears up and down he's useless, but
he might be all right eventually, but completely useless.
With useless information.
And here we go. This is going to be What's in a Name is the name of this category. A group of finches is called a charm. A group of frogs is called an army. A group of goats is called a trip. Really. A group of kangaroos is called a mob. A group of owls is called a parliament. And a group of toads is called a knot. I'm curious as to toads are a knot and frogs are, what was the frogs? An army. Very interesting. That's it. Like I said, short and sweet. And before I go, here's some final words. I do this every single week. I guess it's pretty obvious that I love fishing in the way back. Oh, the Atlantic Ocean's also fun, but owning a small skiff limits the amount of time I can even begin to spend out there. Personally, the feeling of being away from everyone is a plus for me. I saw only 2 boats in about 4 hours on Monday. And both of those were far away from me, obviously traveling from place to place. Fishing is a game of learning, many times through trial and error. But that's what I like about it. I'm not in this for the dinner. I'm in this for the beauty of my surroundings. I'm in a place that very few get to experience, and I can be there through my experience of navigating faraway places on very, very skinny water. It gives me a great deal of joy. Y'all take care, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed listening, please subscribe to the podcast channel. Don't forget to tell a friend. Facebook page is Catchy Outdoors. The website's catchyoutdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts, purchase my books, and find news about my music. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.